Welcome to On the Bubble Podcast, episode 106. I'm your host, Balsa J. Wade, and with me is my co-host, Yuki Lee Bender. Today we're going to be touching up on the first High C spoilers that came out during this week. We're going to be talking about each of the heroes, because those got spoiled, and some of their cards. We don't have too many cards spoiled, but it is like a good time to just like touch up on these cards and honestly talk a lot about the new necromancer class, because it's kind of cool.
Yeah, agreed. This is one that I feel like maybe more than any other class I've heard people asking for.
Yeah, it's gonna be a very unique hero and like the way it plays. And we got enough cards to really talk about the mechanics that necromancer does get this time.
Yeah, this is kind of sweet. I feel like sometimes in spoiler season we don't get that good of an idea of what the heroes do, but here it just kind of feels like we at least get like a pretty good taste of each of them. You can sort of start to imagine some of the things they can do, which is nice. It's not like I don't know, it's not like when they spoiled the Mistveil heroes and we're like, what is this symbol?
Yeah, that is true. I guess we should start talking about it right away. Where do you want to start with when we talk about the high C spoilers then?
I think we can just go hero by hero and then talk about the hero, talk about any cards associated with them, and just kind of move through like that.
Do you want to start with the necromancer heroes then?
Sure, yeah. We'll start with Gravy Bones, Shipwrecked Looter. Gravy Bones is a 4 intellect pirate necromancer hero with 40 health. And he says instant, and there's a symbol. I believe this is like tap, and it's like a shorthand for like a once per turn kind of deal, where you instant tap, destroy a gold that you control, draw a card, then discard a card. If a blue card has been put into your graveyard this turn, you may play cards with Watery Grave from your graveyard, which is a keyword that we see on some of the cards. So pretty interesting hero ability, being able to turn the golds into essentially like a loot effect where you draw a discard, and then if the card that you discard off of that or some other effect is blue, you can play some of these cards that you've been discarding from your graveyard and kind of have like extra cards. So this is a pretty strong card advantage engine, and we'll have to see exactly like how hard it is to get this working and how all the minions work, but this strikes me as a really powerful hero text box. I don't know about you.
Yeah, definitely. When it says when a blue card has been put into your graveyard this turn, it's like it doesn't matter how the blue card's been put into your graveyard. It can be like draw discard effect. It could be like just discarding it. It can be, a very popular card people are talking about is a Call from the Grave, which is a blue card itself that after you play it, you can search your deck and choose a card from your deck and put it into the graveyard. And then Call from the Grave itself is a blue card that will go to the graveyard, so you don't even have to dump a blue card with Call from the Grave to activate Gravy Bone's ability. And like even like not a good card, but like a card that like immediately comes to mind is like Ravenous Rabble Blue could even be a thing where you can chip in for some like blue go again attack, and then you can start playing Watery Grave cards from your graveyard right away.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, I'll be curious to see exactly like what all the enablers end up looking like. But yeah, that is a good point that there's a lot of ways to enable this. So maybe from there we can go ahead and talk about some of the Watery Grave stuff. And I think to start, let's talk about his offhand, the Compass of Sunken Depths. This is a pirate necromancer equipment. It's an offhand. It has instant once per turn. Look at the top card of your deck. So you get information about the top of your deck, kind of like Dash.io, but you can only do this once. And the first card with Watery Grave that you play from your graveyard each turn gets go again. So essentially, if you turn on his second ability where you've gotten a blue into the graveyard, you can play a Watery Grave from your graveyard. That Watery Grave card gets go again, and the ones that we've seen don't have inherent go again. So this kind of lets you like play with the minion and then do something else, whether that's attack with the ally or play a Command and Conquer or, whatever.
Mm-hmm, yeah, just giving a card that doesn't have go again is always powerful. And this offhand, just this card being an offhand means that he also gets to hold a weapon. So pretty powerful ability.
Yeah, and I think the look at the top card of your deck part of this is really strong. Your ability to use this in conjunction with effects like Sink Below. So this is an instant. So you could look on your opponent's turn and then decide about your sink and get full information, kind of like Dash.io doesn't play Sink Below, but kind of like Dash.io. And you can also use this if you know that you want to, like, let's say like you're thinking about blocking down all your cards and like you're like, can I like rely on drawing like a blue off the top of my deck with like a gold. Like maybe I want to block 3 cards, I have a blue in hand, I have a blue on top of my deck. You can look and be like, yep, it's a blue, crack a gold, draw, discard one of the blues, pitch the other blue, play one of my minions. And I think that play pattern and being able to like know if that's going to work or not is subtly really powerful. So I think that the instant look at the top card of your deck is going to be a lot stronger than people maybe initially think.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think it's a good thing that it's like a bonus on the card, right? Than a because like the second line of text, the line of text that gives go again is the main reason you want to play this card, and just has like the additional ability on top of it, which is like every additional ability is always a plus side on this.
Yeah. I think you like pretty much will have to be playing this card because I don't know. It seems like your watery grave cards really need go again. And the additional ability on top of that is really strong.
Then, what are some of the Watery Grave cards that got spoiled? Do you want to talk about the majestic Pirate Necromancy Action Ally card first?
Yeah, so we have Chum, Friendly First Mate. This is a yellow 4-cost Pirate Necromancer action ally. It attacks for 4, it has 6 life, and says action, tap, attack, so attack for 4 for 0 resources, or instant, tap, discard a card with Watery Grave. That's part of the cost, so you have to be able to discard a card with Watery Grave to activate this ability. It says until end of turn, opponents must choose this as the target of attacks if able. So it sort of has like a taunt effect, if you like, where you can force your opponent to attack it, and that's as an instant, which I think is pretty strong. And there's also Watery Grave on this, which has some reminder text that wasn't on Gravy Bones. It says when this is put into your graveyard from the arena, turn it face down. So if your opponent kills Chum or any of your Watery Grave allies, it goes face down and into your graveyard. So you can't then just like replay it over and over again. I don't know if they're going to do anything with this like face down. Like I don't know if there's going to be some way to turn them face up or not. I sort of suspect not, but we'll see. But when they're face down, you won't be able to replay them is kind of the idea here, which I think makes a lot of sense. You don't want to play this guy that just keeps bringing back the same minion every single turn. That would not be very fun.
Yeah, that would be kind of crazy. I guess the Watery Grave mechanic means that it has to be from your arena for it to go face down. So if it goes to the graveyard with any other ability or from anywhere else, it would be you can play them. But then this also means you can just play these allies from your hand, right? Like it doesn't have to come from your graveyard.
Yeah, so you can either play this from your hand or find some way to get this in your graveyard, maybe by like flipping a top card or draw discard, and then you can play it from your graveyard. Notably, both Chum and the other Watery Grave ally we've seen do not have a block value, so you can't actually block with these. You can pitch them; they pitch for 2, they're yellow, but you can't actually block with them to get them into your graveyard. So these allies are no blocks. They're kind of like baubles that you have in your deck, except that they have a very powerful effect when you play them, and you can also discard them and kind of turn them into like, I'm going to call it like free cards, free in quotations. You do have to do the work of draw, discard, put it in there, and you can get punished for having the no blocks. But if you do the thing, it's essentially a free card.
That makes sense. I wonder how this interacts with cards like the Weakest Link, where it interacts with like no blocking cards.
I imagine that this would get hit by Weakest Link. It doesn't have a block value, but
Yeah, I would assume so too, but maybe they change something or they clarify on the rules somewhere. But this card's ability is ridiculous, right? Let's talk about Chum's ability next. So this is instant tap it, discard a card with Watery Grave, but this means that you couldn't attack with it on the same cycle, right? Or at least I would assume so.
yeah, unless there's some way to untap that we haven't seen, which is possible. But yeah, by default, you're not going to be able to attack with it on the same cycle. The fact that you get to do this as an instant is really strong, though. It can sort of like force your opponent to interact with your board when they don't want to, and also against decks that have go again, this can be really annoying. Like, let's say Aurora wants to go like 4/4/4 3 times. If they go 4/4, you can activate Chum, and then all they can do is attack this. But if they only have 1 card in hand, you know they're not going to be able to deal 6 damage to this. So you pretty much just force them to Arsenal and end their turn. So I think against like go again heroes, if you're familiar with their kind of play patterns and their attack powers, this could be really nasty. Or like Zen wants to end on Mauling Chi, and if he like chooses to like not interact with Chum, you can just be like Oh, you have a mauling chi. Yeah. Attack jump, please. Like, sounds pretty annoying.
Yeah, a Mauling Key hits for 5, it lives with 1 life, and the on hit doesn't work. Sounds great.
So I think this ability is really powerful. And I also think this guy just has good stats. He's a 4/6, which is kind of crazy. That's like a 10-point card at least. That's 4 damage on offense and then 6 life. So they need to deal 6 damage to this. So this kind of like blocks for 6 and attacks for 4. And it might block for even more than 6. Like if they can only E-strike for 7, then this effectively stopped like 7 damage. And for a 4 cost 10-point card is like kind of crazy. And the fact that you can play this from your graveyard because of Watery Grave is nuts. Like I think if you loot this into your graveyard and this is like a quote unquote free card and you just get to go like the play that I talked about, you crack a gold, you draw a discard, you know that you're gonna have a blue goes in, you can play this guy for out of your graveyard and you have like blue and tunic counter up, so you play it off of 1 card and this is just like a 1 card 4/6 that your opponent kind of like has to interact with, and if they don't, you just have like he just stays on the board and keeps getting value.
Yeah, a 1 card 4/6 with go again, so you can attack on the same turn. Yeah, that sounds pretty. That sounds fair, right? Yeah, fair and constructed.
Yeah, like even in constructed, it's crazy. Like even if all that this guy does is like comes into play, attacks for 4, and then blocks for 6, that's like nuts off of 1 card, right? That's like a 1 card 10.
I guess the one thing with these, at least for now, is that these allies don't seem to have go again inherently. Like you'll have the Dromai problem of like, oh, there's like 6 dragons on board. I like cannot beat this board anymore. Whereas like these allies doesn't look like they have inherent go again on their attacks. And I'm hoping that the Necromancer doesn't give go again on all of these allies. At least the snowballing effect of like, oh, they have like a huge army of these allies isn't gonna be that big of a problem for some of the decks.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So yeah, we'll have to see exactly all the ways that Gravy Bones can leverage these allies and like what he can do with a big board. Before we look at some of those examples, we can talk about the other ally. We have Rigor Mortis. This is also a yellow, cost 1, attacks for 6, and has 1 life. It's a Pirate Necromancer action ally, and it has an action, pay 1 resource, tap, attack, and it has Watery Grave. So it's a 6/1. It costs a resource to attack, notably. I still think this card's pretty good. Its baseline is kind of like a 2-cost 6 power attack that leaves a body behind that your opponent kind of needs to deal with. And if they don't, you can potentially like tunic attack for 6 on the next turn, which is already really good. And I think just like a 2-cost 6 power attack that even if they can do exactly 1 damage to this, like their Ira, they can Kodachi this. That's pretty good. You did like a 2 cost 7, and yeah, I don't know. It's just good value. And if it's in your graveyard, it's like a 1 card 7 that like threatens to do a tunic 6 off of 0 cards on the following turn. Like that's like really strong.
I think the 1 health on this is like kind of deceptive, right? Because a lot of heroes just can't do 1 damage. It's like I remember the Ashwing days when Dromai makes 2 Ashwings and you could just get rid of both in 1 turn. And mostly for like heroes like Guardian, heroes without the natural go again, just has a hard time dealing with 1 health allies. And this is like a prime example of one of those cards that's going to be really annoying that they have to deal with, but you know, there's no good way to deal with it. They'll kind of have to use a card to be able to get rid of this card.
Yeah, exactly. And if they send like 4 go again, or even like a head jab, like Syndra sends like a head jab into this for 3 go again, that is you're pretty happy with that trade. Although notably the allies do trigger on hits, so like Mask of Momentum, Snatch, stuff like that will work. You have to be careful with the on hits. Some on hits specify if it hits, and some specify if it hits a hero. So it's very much a case by case basis. But if you haven't played against allies, since it's actually been a little while since Dromai was around, some of our listeners may not have played against allies. You can sometimes get on hits against them. It really depends if it says hits a hero or if it just says hits.
Yeah, typically ninjas are going to be the good ones, the good heroes against the ally decks. Kind of everyone else struggles against them. Is my image of allies.
Yeah, I think Ranger also notably gets some, like Endless Arrow and Heat Seeker both work against allies and are traditionally really strong cards against them, and we do have a Ranger in this set.
Think of this, Yuki. Do you want an endless arrow, a rigor mortis? Like, was that value?
Mm, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, you're like needing to give this card go again somehow, and if you don't give it go again, you used your whole turn to kill a rigor mortis. Oh, that sounds. If I was the necromancy player, I would be so happy with that. With that result.
Yeah, that's a lot better if you have Voltaire, but without Voltaire, yeah, it's probably a lot worse.
Oh yeah, Voltaire is out. That's in Living Legend only now. It's yeah, Voltaire never gonna come back to CC. It's okay. We don't need that card. That card's toxic.
Yeah, card definitely a little too good. Okay, so one of the things Jay mentioned was these allies not having go again on their attack from what we've seen. So one of the questions is like, what can you do if you build up a board of allies? We've gotten a little bit of a look at some of them. There's kind of a cycle of cards that care about having allies. We can start with Board the Ship. This is a 2 for 6 that blocks 3 at red. It's a Pirate Necromancer attack action, so just good vanilla stats. It says when this attacks, you may tap an ally you control, and if you do, this gets overpower. So it's just a vanilla 2/6, but if you can tap an ally, it's a 2 for 6 with overpower. This strikes me as a limited card, but does give us an idea of like some of the design space they're exploring with these minions and these allies.
Yeah, it looks like these allies are gonna be more like a resource thing, at least to pay for costs for other cards. We'll have to wait for the Majestics that do want to tap allies for some like significant upside, but at least Board the Ship doesn't seem to it doesn't look to be a constructed staple, right?
When I saw this, I sort of wondered like if there's going to be equipment with this ability. It'd be sort of interesting if there's like some kind of equipment, like what if there was just like a Valiant dynamos that like only worked if you tapped an ally? Like that seems
Oh, that sounds gross. That sounds gross.
that might be too good, but like I could see there being an equipment that taps allies for some kind of value. That wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, yeah, that wouldn't shock me either. Or if it gained like defensive value for each ally you tap with Break.
Yeah, something some kind of effect. Like maybe it's not recursive, but like having an onboard way to make your opponents care about allies, like just sort of intuitively makes sense to me. But I'm not a game designer. I don't know.
Then you want to talk about the next card with the same ability, which is Paddle Faster.
Yeah,
So Paddle Faster is a zero cost Necromancer attack action. It says attacks for 4, blocks for 3. When this attacks, you may tap an ally you control. If you do, this gets go again. This is like a much better card than Board the Ship, in my opinion.
yeah. So this is a wounding blow. Good stat line. 0 for 4 go agains are really good. I think people are kind of onto this by now. They're crazy and limited, but they are also really good and constructed. Just look at Aurora. The deck is basically like all 0 for 4 go against. It also does other things, to be fair, but there's a lot of turns that are really good where it's just 0 for 4 go again over and over again. So that ability is really strong, and blocking 3 is also really good. So Paddle Faster, I kind of think will just be a 3 of in every Gravy Bones deck.
Yeah, I can't unless they don't play allies for some reason, right?
Yeah, but then like, what are you doing? You like don't have a text box.
Yeah, yeah. Look, we can maybe they have some Watery Grave card that's not an ally. Okay, they're probably not, but
Yeah, I guess it's possible, but yeah, I assume you're going to be playing allies in your Gravy Bones deck, and I assume this card is going to be really good. Yeah, so that's Paddle Faster. We also have Hoist 'em Up. This is a red block card that blocks for 4. And it says when this defends, you may tap an ally you control, and if you do, this gets +1. So 4 for 0 block cards we've seen be like kind of playable, I would say. A little like fringe playable. Not being able to arsenal it is like a real cost. Like this is a lot worse than a shelter, but it can be a 0 for 5 if you have an ally, which is pretty solid. I think if you're expecting a lot of 5 power attacks, I could see Hoist 'em Up seeing play, but I think a lot of times the D-Rex are going to be a little better.
yeah, it looks like a limited card to me.
Yeah, agree with that. Looks like a limited card and maybe a like, I don't know. I don't know what hero would be. Like back in the day, people liked having Flicker Trick for Lexi because you had all these like five five power arrows with on hits. If there was ever something like that where you're expecting a lot of 5 power attacks with on hits, maybe this is good enough. But
Then let's talk about the last necromancer card. It's Chart the High Seas. This is a majestic. This card's nuts. This card's gonna be like your opponent plays this card, and you're gonna be in trouble a lot of the times, I think. And what this card does is it is a necromancer action card that blocks for 3, pitches for blue, and it says look at the top 2 cards of your deck. You may pitch a blue card from among them, put the rest in your graveyard. Create a gold token for each yellow card put into your graveyard this way. Go again. So this card means that let's ignore the first portion of the card and you don't get a blue. You play this card, you put like a yellow card, let's say 1 yellow card, worst case scenario, into your graveyard. You make a gold token. And Chart the Seas goes to the graveyard. So the yellow card you put in your graveyard, I'm assuming will be a Watery Grave ally. That means you get to play that card right away on that turn.
or any other Watery Grave card you have in your graveyard, right? Like that's the thing is like if you have like 4 different allies, you can pick the one that's best for the situation. So you do kind of like go up a card in that situation. So you, like this just kind of replaces itself, but you also can just like play any of your allies, which is really good.
This card enables the Gravy Bones hero text right away. And the best case scenario on this card is like ridiculous, right? Like you play this card, it becomes a blue pitch. The blue card goes to graveyard, activates Gravy Bone, and you get a gold token, and then you get to choose the best ally to play.
Oh, that's a blue block 3.
And as a blue block 3,
Yeah, Chart the High Seas is nuts. This card seems like it does everything Gravy Bones wants, and yeah, I mean every deck is gonna play 3 of these for sure in constructed.
this is ridiculous. I read this card and I was like, wow, how was it okay for a hero to get a card like this?
Yeah, the card's really good, and then here's like where like the compass comes in, right? Like the fact that you get to just for free look at the top card of your deck, and sure you don't know both cards, but you at least know like, okay, there's a blue, so I'm gonna get 3 resources, or like I know I'm gonna hit this ally plus like maybe I get something else is really really good. Like if you had to just kind of like play this and in the blind and like in the first cycle it might be like a little bit risky and it might be a second cycle card, which is still really good, but the fact that you just know the top card of your deck for free because of the compass is crazy. Like it's so much stronger.
I feel like I love the spoilers for Gravy Bones right now. It's like it kind of tells us exactly what he is looking to do and like the power cards associated with him already, which makes me excited about this hero.
Yeah, I'm really excited about Gravy Bones too. And something we didn't mention that's really cool is they're coming out with an armory deck. I think when the set drops are very close to it, and it's a Gravy Bones armory deck, which I think is like a really nice way to introduce a new class. Because like one of the comments I had when they first spoiled Necromancers, I'm like, man, it's hard to design a new class and have them be viable right away without it just being broken. Do you know what I mean? Like if he's like already competitive with like 1 set worth of cards, how do you then like add cards to that card pool that matter without like breaking it? But I think that just having the armory deck in there, so here's like potentially 60 cards that are just for this hero and a bunch of equipment, is a really good way to kind of bridge that gap.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think it's a good way to balance the heroes in a way that's meaningful, right? They get to do that after the set's been designed too. So I think it's a plus side. Let's just say that it's a really good plus side for the game itself.
So that's Gravy Bones, probably the most exciting hero in the sense of like being a new class. But we do have 2 other very exciting heroes. Do you want to talk about Marlin, our ranger, or Puffin, our mechanologist next?
Let's talk about Puffin first. We don't really know too much about Puffin right now, so let's quickly talk about Puffin. So Puffin's the pirate mechanologist hero with 40 health, 4 intellect, and her ability is action, tap it, destroy a gold you control, create a golden cog token. The second time you crank each turn, draw a card. And let's talk about the golden cog first. And this is the mech token cog item, and it has crank. And then this says this enters the arena with a steam counter. At the start of your turn, destroy this unless you remove a steam counter from it. So all this card does is that it cranks once. That's it.
Yeah, so I think Puffin's pretty interesting. Anytime there's draw a card in the hero text, it's like pretty powerful. Going up cards is just really, really strong in any card game, honestly, but especially Flesh and Blood, where card draw is pretty limited. So being able to draw these cards is really good. And the first ability, just kind of giving you one of these for free, is pretty strong. So I'm interested in Puffin. We'll have to see how easy it is to get these crank items and like what your ways of doing this are. Notably, the first action doesn't have go again though. So when you activate it, you can make the golden cog and crank to essentially give it go again, but you're not going up action points. You're just staying neutral on action points and your golden cog will have no counters on it. So I think the first ability is mostly an enabler for her second ability. Maybe if there's like other effects that care about cranking or care about cogs, which we'll get to in a little bit, there are cards that care about cogs. It also helps those cards, but yeah, you're not going up action points or anything when you activate Puffin's first ability.
It's honestly kind of underwhelming. We know a lot of the crank cards that are currently existing, and a lot of them are good, but they're not amazing. If that makes sense, like they're not all cards that makes me want to like play infinite copies of, or if they are cards that you do want to play, they like it's kind of a downside to crank them. So it does make me feel like they need to add new crank cards in the set for her ability to really shine.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll add on that I think there's like cool design space that they could explore where there's something like they could like make a mechanologist attack action that has on hit make a golden cog, which is sort of like an on hit go again, but it also be like draw like essentially like draw a card if you have a golden play because of Puffin. So I'm sort of hoping that there will be some reasonable mechanologist cards that will like make these golden cogs like kind of as like an upside, but otherwise just be like kind of on rate. And I think if we see that, Puffin could be really interesting. But I agree, if you're having to play too many of these crank items from hand, probably not where you want to be. Most of them are not great, especially when you have to crank them. But you know, if you crank them and then you draw a card, that is pretty good. So like if you activate Puffin, you play a Cerebellum processor, you crank it, you draw a card, and then you have Cerebellum processor in play. Like that is pretty strong. So I see the vision with Puffin. I can imagine this hero being strong, but we really do need to see exactly all the cards that come in the set and how much support she gets.
Do you want to talk about her common first as like a way to use cogs?
Yeah, so we have Sky Skimmer. At red, this is a 0 for 4 that blocks 3. It's a mechanologist attack action. And it says once per turn instant, tap a cog you control. This gets +1 or go again. So this is sort of like something you can do in reactions. You can either make this a 0 for 5, you can make a 0 for 4 go again. This card actually seems really good to me, assuming that you can get the cogs relatively easily. Just same thing, 0 for 4 go again, block 3, really good.
Notably, because this is an instant, you can give the go again after hits, after reactions. So you can dodge random things like, I guess, Den of the Spider, and that is a small plus, right? On this, you can wait until after reaction to give it go again or not.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the trick is pretty cool. Like, so where I imagine this coming into play is like you activate Puffin, you make a golden cog, you crank it, play a boom grenade, you crank it, you draw a card because you've cranked 2 items, then you play Sky Skimmer, and you have like sort of like an option to go 0 for 4, wait for it to hit and trigger the boom grenade, and then give it go again. You can give this +1 to push the boom grenade over. I think there's like some interesting stuff that Puffin can do.
Yeah. I think Sky Skimmer with Boom Grenades actually just probably how you want to be playing this card. Because, man, trying to block a card that might be a 4 or a 5 is... That sounds like a nightmare. Even if you have like a card like Sink Below, it doesn't cleanly cover this up because it could be a 5. If you block 6 on it, they're just going to give it go again. It's just like, man, it's going to be a nightmare to play against Sky Skimmer and Constructed.
Yeah, yeah. And it being an instant is just so good. The fact that you can kind of force you get to force them to blink first on their blocks, which is always really really strong. So yeah, we'll see. It's definitely some cool stuff Puffin can do. Do you want to talk about our next card?
Sure, it's going to be Golden Sky Warden. It's going to be a 4-cost yellow card. This has 7 power and it blocks for 2. And it is a pirate mech action attack card. And this card just has Galvanize. When this defends, you may destroy an item you control. If you do, this card gets +1 block value. If a golden cog is destroyed this way, create a gold token and repeat this process. So This turns all of your cogs back into golds, and it
Yeah.
blocks for a lot.
Yeah, this seems really strong to me. Because once you turn them into gold, you can then later turn them into cogs again. So it seems like an important engine piece where, you get some cogs, you get to block with the golden sky warden, you make some more golds, you have some more cogs for your future turns. Which I assume that like getting that gold and keeping those cogs going is going to be pretty important to Puffin's hero ability. But yeah, just being able to recycle these cogs into one block value and another, essentially another cog when you need it, seems really good. Because if you think about it, the cogs are kind of like half a card.
One of the favorite parts about this card is because this is a 7 power, it kind of works well with the Tesla strength from heavy hitters that clashes and makes a gold token on block. And I feel like this is like a 7 power because you want it to have a high power for cards like Tesla strength.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't considered exactly test of strength. That is really cool. And that was something I was going to touch on is we're seeing Puffin have access to potentially like go again without needing to boost, which means you might be able to play a mechanologist deck that can still be aggressive, but can play generics. And I had thought of like sink below the classics. But yeah, that's a really good point that you could also play test of strength.
I feel like all of the heroes in this set might want to play Tesla Strength or at least consider that card because they all care about gold in some way or not, right?
Yeah, that's a really good shout. I think Test of Strength does seem like a potentially pretty interesting card in a lot of these heroes. It's cool that Gravy Bones' allies have power too for Test of Strength.
That's both gross and it's definitely the upside compared to someone like Dromai, whose front face of the dragons don't have any power.
We can move on from Puffin to our final hero, Marlin, Treasure Hunter. I'm pretty excited for this one. It's a Pirate Ranger hero, 4 intellect, 40 health. And Marlin says, action, tap, destroy a gold you control, create a goldfin harpoon in your hand, go again. And whenever you draw a card during your action phase, you may put an arrow from your hand face up into your arsenal. So kind of like a reload effect. Notably, this does work with New Horizons, so you can put it into your second arsenal zone, which I think is pretty interesting and something I assume Marlin's going to want to do. Let's also talk about the Goldfin Harpoon token that gets put into your hand if you destroy a gold. So Goldfin Harpoon is a 0 cost 2 power attack. It's a Pirate Ranger action arrow, and it doesn't block. It says this card is a yellow, but it can't be pitched. So I don't know if this is like actually matters or if this is just flavor because it's gold, but it's a 2 power attack. It can't be pitched. And it says if this would be put into your graveyard, instead remove it from the game. So this is like the ephemeral keyword we saw on Crouching Tigers, but I guess they decided not to use that keyword. So yeah, we see like a way to generate arrows in Ranger, which can potentially help with deck damage, which is something Ranger can struggle with, just like running out of enough attacks in deck. So being able to generate some extra value in your deck seems pretty strong. Being able to fix your hands that don't have an arrow, even if this isn't a great one, is also pretty good. So yeah, I think this is like a pretty nice ability as like a consistency piece. And I think it has some other implications we can talk about when we see more cards in the set.
I think the card that comes into mind when I read Marlin the first time is Three of a Kind. It's a card that just says draw 3 cards, and you can only play cards from an arsenal. And Marlin kind of gets the free reload after you play that card, which is a big upside, right? On Three of a Kind.
Yep. Yeah. Typically, the big question you have is like, how do you spend all these cards? And being able to get a free reload with Marlin's hero ability is really good. Marlin seems to care about gold. You can also crack gold to potentially do even more loads, assuming you can get your arrows go again. And the other card that comes to mind for me is Death Dealer. You load an arrow, you draw a card, and then you can load another arrow, which seems extremely good.
Sorry, Death Dealer? But then don't you have another arrow, or don't you already have an arrow in your arsenal at that point then?
Well, New Horizons.
Oh, you have New Horizons and Death Dealer. I see. Oh, this is Death Dealer New Horizons deck.
I think so. That's what it reads to me. It's interesting that Death Dealer is Azalea's signature weapon, so Marlin may at some point not have access to Death Dealer. I'm curious about all of that, but Death Dealer, New Horizons, and Marlin sounds very compelling, honestly.
Ooh. Now it's just a question of how many go again arrows can we get.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a big question. There was kind of like a leak early on that was a spoiler that showed some other kind of harpoon token that I believe had go again. So that's sort of interesting to me. But yeah, I'm curious if we get a bunch of go again arrows. I know that a lot of people like kind of when they hear this, they get scared because of memories of Lexi. One thing I'll say is that when the arrows just have go again, I think it's like pretty acceptable because I think the big problem with Lexi was that like it wasn't that she got to fire 3 arrows. Like Aurora sends like 4 or 5 attacks every turn. The problem with Lexi was that the arrow she was sending was like Heat Seeker, Infecting Shot, and Endless Arrow.
The arrows with on hits.
Yeah, it's just like I'm sending like 3 snatches with go again, and you're just like, oh no, how do I deal with this? Whereas like if it's vanilla damage, I think it's like pretty fair, honestly.
Or like one of them's a sleep dart or something that you have to block out for your hero text to work.
Yeah, like if you go like vanilla arrow, sleep dart, it's like, that's a strong turn, but I don't think it's doing anything that is breaking the game.
Mary Bones, or sorry, Marilyn can still play Heat Seeker, right? Like that is a card that she gets to play still.
Yeah, she definitely has some strong on hits available to her. So pretty interesting. I'm curious if there's like other draw a card effects that could be leveraged with this. I haven't necessarily thought of anything in particular, but there might be. But we actually do see some draw a card effects in the set. So maybe we can talk about Big Game Trophy Shot next. This is a yellow 2 cost 3 block. It's a pirate ranger action. It says your next arrow attack this turn gets +4 power. And if it has harpoon in its name, it gets when this hits a hero, create a gold token. Draw a card, then discard a card, go again. So the draw discard is like kind of card selection. It also triggers Marlin. So you get to load an arrow. This could be so you could like crack a gold, make a harpoon. This is a 2 for 6 with on hit, make a gold. That's sort of this card's floor. The other play pattern that this card has that's really strong is if you do the same thing, you can also discard the harpoon. So with these draw discard effects, you can actually turn that into real card advantage by discarding the harpoons and kind of translate those golds into cards. So I think that's something really interesting about this Goldfin harpoon, and I wonder if we're going to see more of this theme in the set.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, if you can turn these tokens into real cards, that is like the unfair things that these heroes can do, and that reminds me of Zen when Art of War got banned. The reason why Art of War got banned was because it turned these Crouching Tigers into real cards. And if you can turn Goldfin Harpoon into real cards, that feels like the unfair thing that Marlin will get to do.
Yeah, and I think it kind of contextualizes this Big Game Trophy Shot to me a lot. Like when I first read this card, it's like, okay, it blocks for 3, but 2 cost +4 power and reload is like, that's not a good card. Like we have Take Game that's a 0 for 3 reload at red, which is just so much more efficient. And like, yeah, you get if it's a harpoon, you get a gold token, sure. But when you start to go, oh, actually, this can be a 2 for 4 reload, draw a card, that's really impressive. So yeah, I think if you see this draw discard effect, it's going to be really powerful in Marlin. And I wonder if there's other draw discard effects that we're going to see be relevant. Like it might be too bad, but like Trade In comes to mind as like a draw discard that when that you can play from Arsenal and potentially get card advantage from. So
yeah, hopefully a little bit better than Trade In, but
yeah, I'm hoping for a better card than Trade In, but along those lines.
Yeah, that makes sense. Too bad Art of War is not legal.
Yeah. Art of War with this would be really, really good.
Tap Marlin, make a harpoon. Art of War, vanish the harpoon, draw 2 cards. Reload with Marlin. Oh, wow. Fair and balanced gameplay design.
Yeah. You can potentially E-Strike with this card. It then goes into your deck, but you can E-Strike with this card.
Yeah, that's Easter egg is such a interesting card with all of these like ephemeral type effects. It's just like these cards have like text that says like this can't go back into your deck in like any like normal way, but then Easter egg always breaks it and be like, no, actually these cards have to be sleeved in the right sleeve because sometimes it can actually go into the bottom of your deck. Let's talk about her signature attack then. This card's gonna be King Shark Harpoon, and this card has Go Fish. Oh, I guess we should talk about the stats first. It's a red card, 2 cost, 6 power, 3 block. And it's an arrow attack action. And the ability is Go Fish. When this hits a hero, they choose and reveal a card from their hand. If it's an attack action card, they discard it, and you create a gold token. If you activate a cannon this turn, instead look at their hand and choose the card. This card doesn't really make any sense to me right now because we don't know what a cannon is. I'm assuming it's going to be her weapon?
Maybe? Yeah. I'm also not sure what a cannon is. I read this and I was like, cannon? Huh. Okay. What I'll say about this card is I think the valuation of this card hinges heavily on how easy it is to activate a cannon this turn. If it is easy, like let's say you could just do it for free, this is obviously really good. This is a 2 for 6 that on hit you thought sees them. So this is like a surgical extraction effect at red, which is just really, really good. But if you, let's say it's like too hard to activate a cannon, the cannon's like not playable. This card is not very good. I think the fact that your opponent gets to choose the card that they reveal, and if it's not an attack action, it just doesn't do anything, is really, really tough. So if they have like a D-react, a non-attack, an instant, yeah, it just doesn't have an on-hit, and your opponent kind of gets to know that before they block. It's not like it's a random card. It's sort of like interesting that they use Go Fish because like you're not picking a random card from their hand. They get a pick, which is yeah. I don't know. So I think if you're playing this card, it's because you feel like you can activate a cannon like relatively easily, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm assuming it's her weapon though. It's just like it would just make a lot more sense. Maybe it's like a an item or something that you have to play from your deck. That would be cool too.
Yeah, I could also see them going that route. So we'll have to see what the cannon is. Yeah, I don't know. This card could be incredible or could be terrible, and I don't really see it being in between, to be honest. Like this card is either like a 3 of and you always play it, or this card is just not good, and I don't know which of the two it is. Maybe it's her weapon, and there's like a cannon Marlin build, and there's also like a Death Dealer New Horizons Marlin build. Could be interesting.
Out of these heroes that we talked about so far, which one's gonna be the one that you want to work on first?
I'm really torn. I really do like Ranger, and I'm excited for a new Ranger. And I think that Marlin's got some really interesting design space. Because like one of my problems with a new Ranger is just like, well, we've kind of seen the make a big arrow and give it dominate. You don't want to make just another Azalea. And Lexi with Voltaire was too good. So like, how do we make a Ranger that can beat a fatigue deck? You know, like that can be just like a Guardian being like, I block you, I swing hammer every turn. Because like Riptide can't beat that, for example. At least not like super easily. And Marlin looks like she might be able to do that. So I'm excited to go back to Ranger, but it's also just been so long that since we had a Ranger that I just like kind of don't even know what a Ranger looks like anymore. The design feels a little bit out of date to me. So I'm excited about Ranger, like tentatively, but I'm also sort of like, we'll see if they pull it off. I'm hoping they do. But Gravy Bones is also really cool. Necromancer is a hero that I've wanted, or a class that I've wanted for a long time, and his design seems really interesting. So at the moment, I might be more interested in Gravy Bones, but I know I'm going to be building Marlin, or at least trying to, for sure. So probably both of them, honestly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What about you?
For me, I think Gravy Bones. I think none of these hero are like particularly a type of gameplay that I'm like that interested in. Maybe Gravy Bones if I can like if it feels really grindy and advantage heavy, then probably I would try Gravy Bones for sure. But I don't think any of these heroes are kind of my style of decks. If yeah, I can't imagine myself being really excited for Puffin or Marlin. Maybe Gravy Bones. I think that's where I'm at with this.
That makes sense. Yeah. Gravy Bones was the one you kind of sounded the most excited about when we were talking about the cards, and also potentially fits into your playstyle the best. We'll have to see more.
Yeah, like I'm more excited about the Guardian Mastery set. I think it's called in like 6 months from now than it is than these heroes here.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
Give me more 5 blocks, please, or 4 blocks. Give me ways to block these aggro decks, please. Give me a way to stop Arc Lightning, please.
That's pretty fair. Okay, yeah, we'll have to see. High Seas is really exciting. World premiere is in Taipei. I am currently planning to go to that. I haven't booked my flight, but I'm pretty excited for this set. It looks pretty fun to play in limited to me. And on that note, maybe we can talk about the macro, the last spoiler we have.
Yeah, so this is going to be a limited card, I'm assuming. And it's a high seas macro landmark. And what this card does is the first time a hero is attacked each turn, put a gold counter on this. Whenever you or an ally you control deals damage to an opposing hero, you remove that many gold counters from this. Then create a gold token equal to the number of counters removed this way. I have a couple of questions on this card. Do you think this treasure island is gonna be just one per? It's not one per player, right? So like you're sharing the treasure island with both the players.
No, it's one per player.
It's landmark though,
Oh.
right? Because you can only have one landmark in play.
Huh.
Oh, you didn't think about this yet, did you?
I didn't think about this. I assumed it was one per player because of the wording whenever you or an ally you control. So I didn't think it would be like a shared thing, but maybe this is a shared thing.
Yeah, because this will make sense if it's a shared thing, right? Because each time a hero is attacked each turn, you put a gold counter on it. So you attack them, you put a counter. They attack you, you put a counter on it. But then the first time someone gets hit, they remove that many counters and they get the gold token. And you deny the other player from being able to generate gold that way in limited.
That's super interesting. Yeah, I think this card's going to be sweet to play with. I thought it was already sweet to play with when it's one-sided. I think it being two-sided is actually even more interesting.
Yeah, I think it's gonna create scenarios where you like have to overblock because you can't give your opponent gold tokens, or like you can force your opponent to block with their whole hand, even if they want to keep some power cards, and it'll be a kind of like an interesting dynamic with this card. The reason why I thought that it's gonna be a shared card from both players is because of the landmark. One of my friends asked me, "Oh, what happens when you play like what is the Prism landmark called? The Sonata? No, library, the Great Library." And they're just like, "Oh, if you play a Great Library and there's a Treasure Island in play, the Treasure Island goes away." And then I thought about it. No, but this is a macro, so it's gonna be only in the limited set for high seas, so it's not gonna be relevant. And then I thought about it again, and I was like, oh, wait, that means that this could only be a landmark that's going to be shared between both the players playing the high seas limited format, too.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. Huh. It's sort of wild that there's this macro that sort of like, I would say drastically alters how the game is played. LSS did, I think Brian mentioned this when they first spoiled macros in Rosetta, saying that like this is a new thing that we're doing, and in the future you'll see some that like really shift things. Like, you know, the other one is like a Helios miter that's just like doesn't take an equipment slot. It's like, okay. And it was still pretty impactful, but I think Treasure Island is going to be like a focal point of this set.
Yeah, I think once this set comes out, we're going to have a full episode on how to play with Treasure Island. That's my guess.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's going to be pretty interesting for pre-release and world premiere as people just like dive into the set for the first time and figure out all of this.
Yeah, I feel like this is gonna create really unfair games, though. Is my worry is like, oh, like the aggro Puffin deck got to start generating gold from turn one, and no counters on Treasure Island ever. But Puffin every turn gets to take that one gold counter and like put it on their board. That's what it sounds like to me when I first read this card. Is like the aggro deck's just gotta like run away with the game with the gold counters or with the gold tokens pretty quickly if you aren't careful.
Yeah, I could see that being the case. It is interesting that it needs to hit and they do stack up. So I think that's true, but I can also see a world where like if you're playing the defensive strategy and you know, are able to block them out and then send a 0 for 4 and that has on hit 2 gold, that's like your way to claw back into the game. So I can see this playing both ways, but I could see a world where it's really snowbally as well.
Imagine like Puffin gets a gold every turn, makes a golden cog every turn. That's just like not fair sometimes, right?
Yeah, I mean, like the golden cog on its own doesn't do anything, but yeah, if she gets to just like effectively draw a card every turn, that is really crazy.
Okay, yeah. So that's all the spoiler cards that have been announced so far, at least from today's recording. Anything else you want to say before we wrap up the episode for today?
No, I think that's going to be it. So let's go ahead and wrap things up. If you want to get in touch with us, you can find us on social media. I'm at Yukili Bender on Twitter and Blue Sky. Jay is at Ueda J over on Twitter. And you can email us at onthebobble@gmail.com. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/onthebobble. And I guess I forgot the patron shout out this time because we're so excited about the new cards. But thank you to all of our patrons. You mean a lot to us, and we couldn't be doing what we're doing without you. And I'm excited to jump into a new PQ season with everyone and sort of, ramp up content for that PQ season again so people can get ready for those qualifiers coming up. So, yeah, that's going to be a wrap for this week. Thank you all for listening. Have a good night.
Do you have anything to say for whatever it's called? The sign off?
I only have a really dumb thing to say, so if you have something, we can go with that.
No, nothing. You can say your dumb thing. I'm curious now. What is the dumb thing?
So I've been told, I don't know what the source for this is, maybe it's like a dev talk, but I've been told that pirate is confirmed a class, not a talent, so that there are two classes. These are all like dual classers. I just think it's like really, I don't know. It's very something that like I remember when they made the emperor who just like immediately died as soon as they spoiled his existence, and they were just like, the emperor is so strong because he's the emperor of Volkai and he's the only person ever that can be a dual classer. And now they're just like, hey, Gravy Bones is a dual classer too.
Oh, I didn't even know that was a plot point for the emperor.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. I feel like it was like on the Fab TCG page. You know how they have those like hero pages and they have like three, like they'll have like a couple like, oh god, they'll have like a couple points where they like talk about it. It's like very like flavorful, like I don't know, like savage fighter or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I remember that being a thing, and yeah, I was just sort of, I don't know. Yeah, hero highlights dual class. More than exceptional is a requisite of any mortal with desires to rule the volatile land of Volkar. The Emperor is no mere mortal, being the only known hero who can proficiently wield dual classes. And then they're just like, here's like these pirates.
There's three of them now. It's like
Yeah. And one of them's like a skeleton.
uh,
Oh, I also have like a lore. What's the word? Lore prediction.
okay, go.
So young Gravy Bones, the art for him has been spoiled, and he's alive. Like he's just like not a skeleton. So when he's old, he's a skeleton, which is pretty funny. But I'm like curious if there's gonna be like a plot point that his like crew died and that he like became a necromancer to like revive his crew.
Oh, okay. That's really a reasonable. That's pretty reasonable. That is pretty reasonable. That would make sense, actually. Yeah, that would make sense if all of the allies are all of his old crewmates.
Yeah, it'd be kind of cool. So I don't know. That's what I got for spoilers. We don't usually talk about lore and flavor here, but for whatever reason, this set made me think of some of those things.
Well, I guess that makes sense because like the first ally that we got introduced to is called Chum.
Yeah,
The
he like has a
friendly,
name.
yeah, it's Chum, friendly first mate. So it's his first crew member, right?
Yeah, Gravy Bones just like, well, first mate is like a, it's like a role on the ship.
Oh, is it?
I don't know enough about it to tell you like what that role is. I just know that the first mate is like a, like in the, like how there's like sergeants in the military. There's like a first mate on a ship, but
Oh,
I
it's
don't
like
know.
okay. I googled it. It just says a first mate, sometime known as a vice captain. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
something like that. I get it now. I get it now.
Yeah. Yeah. But he does have a name, so it is. I don't know. It's interesting.
Hmm. You know what's really unfortunate about him having a name?
What's
Because
that?
this card isn't like a legendary, you can have like 3 chums on your board.
That is true, huh?
Flavor fail, right?
Yeah, flavor fail, flavor fail.
Okay. Okay. I think that's everything for today then.
Yeah, I think that's all. Do you think this is the most we've talked about flavor in like? I feel like this might be more flavor than we've talked about in like than like the rest of the podcast combined.
It might be. And honestly, I feel like this is the most flavor I've talked about Flesh and Blood just in general.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. I usually don't talk about flavor, although I do have a few friends that like talk about it, and they like to talk about flavor to me, and I'm just like, yep, that
Like,
sure is a thing. I remember like some of our locals on like one of our car rides were like they knew all the flavor text on the cards, and they were like they would like read the flavor text and they'd be like, which card is this? And then like there'd be like multiple of them like snapping it off and just be like I remember like Eric was good at this. I think like Eli and Ian were good at this. And they were just like playing this game, and I'm just sitting there and being like, how do you know what the flavor text on these cards is? Like this is unknowable.
yeah, there's a lot of cards that I didn't even know flavor text existed on them.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it was so funny. I remember like having this discussion when they were playing this game, like, how do you know? And I got the funniest answer from Eric. Eric was just like, well, what I'm drafting, like, I make my pick and then I have all this extra time before my next pick, so I read the flavor text. And that just like broke my brain because I'm usually like sorting the pack, trying to think about what would wheel, like all this type of stuff, and then just someone else at the table reading the flavor text just killed me. Yeah, we all engage with TCGs very differently.
Yeah, very differently, very differently. Honestly, it's a good thing, like people
Yeah,
have
no, it
different
is.
ways to interact with the game, and the more ways to interact, the better it is, right? So honestly, it's a
Yeah,
great thing, but definitely not for the competitive players. Is not a focal point. The flavor text is not a focal point.
yeah, yeah. No, for sure. It's pretty funny though. All right, that's gonna wrap us up. Have a good night, everyone.
All right, good night.